We rise from the ashes, roots in the ground, rooted and resilient, power in our... Today, I have the honor of sitting down with another woman of faith who embodies what this community is all about. Rosanna Novaes. Rosanna is more than a founder and visionary behind MindShift Thrive Global Ministries. She is a compassionate beacon of hope and resilience for those she serves. A profound testament of her faith and co-creation with her Savior. MindShift Thrive was conceived in 2023 following a divine calling that Rosanna received. She is also the author of the book, If God Could Heal You, Would You Let Him? Rosanna, welcome to the show. Let's get rooted.
Thank you, Jasmine, for having me. Hi, everyone.
Thank you so much for
It's a
being
pleasure
here
to be here.
today.
I'm super excited.
I am so excited that you're here, and I'm very excited for our conversation today. Can you tell us about the many hats that you've worn, and as an educator, founder, author? What season of life has recently shaped you into who we see today?
The season of life, the one word that comes to mind is authenticity. Is really coming into my own space with the Lord, and the Lord revealing to me that He loves me so much, and that everything that He's already built me to be up until this point, He wants me to share it with the world unapologetically and enjoy.
Your journey includes surviving 2 abusive relationships after divorce. What helped you recognize the cycle, and what helped you begin to break free?
Yeah, so honestly, I actually recognized the cycle way later. It wasn't something during the abuse, I knew it was wrong. But at the same time, I had hope within my relationship that if I showed enough love and grace and was the example of forgiveness and not giving up on the relationship, that these abusers would turn around and see something bigger, see sustainability and a healthier way of approaching a relationship. And that wasn't the case. It actually became worse, especially with my first one that lasted for 5 years. So, not knowing and not being grounded, I wasn't walking with the Lord. I had started walking in my second relationship to the point where He said, I can't go down this path with you. I'm spiritual, but I'm not in it. And He was fine. He was fine with that. The first one was we were both lost. And it was a lot of chaos and not knowing my worth, not knowing my identity, and using all of what I had, all that love and compassion that I had, and pouring it onto Him as if I was the one that was supposed to sustain and build that relationship. And I went about it all wrong. So that definitely wasn't a good way to go, but I didn't know better, and it's okay. Like I've forgiven myself for that.
Right. Yeah. Many women suffer in silence. What do you wish someone had told you in the middle of the chaos you experienced?
Yeah. And it's funny because suffering in silence is exactly what I did because of the shame and the stigma, and me kind of feeling like I should have it all together. But there was a part of me that needed to break out. And by the third year, I was really not suffering in silence anymore because there was a voice within me that said, I got to fight and I got to find a way out. So there was always that trying to strategize what that was going to look like for me. And even though I knew God existed in the bigger scheme of things, I had a fight within me that this was going to happen some way, somehow, because if not, it was going to get worse, or I was going to lose my life. And that was the one thing for me that within my own self, I had to, because it got worse. I already knew that my way wasn't working. But then God had to pull me out, and there was a health condition because of all the stress and all the trauma that was building up within my body, that God was like, all right, well, if you're not going to do it on your own, because you can't do it on your own anyway, I'm going to pull you out of this situation, and your heart is going to start palpitating, and you're going to need an emergency hysterectomy. And at that point, when I was in the hospital for a week, because of I was actually bleeding, Jasmine, for an entire year. I had so many fibroids that For like every single time I would have my menstrual cycle, I would bleed out a lot. So I had lost so much blood that I rushed into the emergency room by myself. And the doctor looked at me and she's like, "You're not going anywhere. If you leave, your next menstrual cycle will be your last. And you could have a cardiac arrest." And I was like, it's that bad. And I didn't even feel it because there were no symptoms. I was just bleeding out. But I knew it wasn't normal. I was just going through life, trying to get through all this and trying to figure out what is going on. It's getting worse. And to be honest with you, after 4 bags of blood and 2 bags of iron later, 3 days hooked up like this, prepping me for that emergency hysterectomy, that was the one time that I said, this is my escape. Yeah. Yeah. And then my ex-partner, he walked into the hospital and he looked at me. I said, "We're done." And I felt protected being in the hospital because I was out of the home suffering in silence.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's literally a prison. It's something that as a victim turning now survivor into thriving, I was in that victim state of mind. Like, nobody's going to help me. I got to figure this out on my own. But God's like, I got bigger plans. I didn't know all of this was going to happen. Right.
Yeah.
But I knew that in the hospital, I felt safer because I had people caring for me. And this was the way out. If it's not now, it's never. I can't go back to that.
2 things that you mentioned that I just want to pull the thread on if I can. And do you think, like you said, that now was the time, right? Like this experience was the time. I was recently attending cancer event at my church, and one of the ladies shared in her story that she thanked God that she got cancer. And I wrestled with that thought a little bit. So I'm curious to know, do you thank God that this happened? Or do you have another thought about it?
I do. It's funny because Jesus Christ on the cross, like when you know what he went through so much abuse and shame and ridicule. Like he suffered every day. He suffered every day for the mission. And he suffered every day to redeem us back. So pain is a part of this life experience, y'all. It really is. And we don't know exactly why he chose pain to turn it into purpose. But for me, like the pain needed to be really loud and really significant for me to do something with it. It can't be just a little pain here and there. You know, we can't be just scraping our knee and then something big happens from scraping your knee. No, well, now my 2 legs are amputated. Well, now I'm getting into a depression because my life has significantly changed, or I could really turn it into something big and speak to a lot of people that really need to find hope and healing after that. You know, that's just a physical ailment type of situation. With me, it had to be that humongous because I was like, whoa, this has never happened to me before. But, and of course I couldn't piece it all together back then. But I will tell you that I am very grateful for everything that happened because it got me closer to the Lord. And that's just how he does it. At least for some of us, right? Maybe not everybody goes through these kind of situations, but it also makes me think of, what about those times that really weren't that big and significant, but maybe for him they were. And it is what led me to this. So when I say that, I'm thinking about my past where I have to start, all right, well, my mother was around. She was awesome, but she was busy and she was a single mom. I didn't have a really dark, deep, traumatic childhood. There were moments, but they weren't big like this one. But now I see God even in those little tiny pieces that weren't so significant, where it built me up to this point, even though I didn't see the red flags, right? And I could have, but he chose not to do that. So there has to be a sense of reverence for the fact that he allowed it to happen. And I embrace that out of love because of everything he's done for us. He literally went through so much pain. And how is it now I'm saying, all right, Lord, I didn't go through that. And now I'm going to look at that and be like, no, thank you. No, yes, thank you. Because now I'm drawing closer to you.
I appreciate that perspective and the picture that you painted. I'm a big word picture person. And so like as you're talking about the pain that he suffered and went through, it was not easy. he did ask the Father, would he let the cup pass from him? But not my will, but that the Father's will be done. And so it's so important to understand that pain is a part of the story, but in the end, it's the beautifulness that comes out of it. Now we get to go into deeper relationship with the Father as a result of his sacrifice, of Jesus' ultimate sacrifice on the cross. We
Amen.
cannot have done that had it not been for Jesus' sacrifice on the cross. So
That's
I
right.
really like that you said that. Shame and confusion keep survivors stuck. How did your faith grow and evolve through the darkest moments that you faced?
The shame and confusion always brought me back to chaos. And I know that God doesn't live in that space. He lives in a space of order and peace and justice. So, having gone through that, juxtaposed to where I'm at right now, like it's all been a process, it's been a journey. I've given myself a lot of grace and love because I see so many people not understanding the cycle of abuse. So, I mean, a lot of people already have a lot of biases towards women, and they're like, well, why didn't they get out? And then people never ask the question that I actually learned from a book, because that's what you start doing. You start educating yourself. Well, yeah, instead of asking those questions, why don't you ask why didn't the guy stop abusing?
Right.
I'm
Yep.
like, when I read that, that was an eye opener for me. Heaven forbid we ask them to stop hurting the one that you're supposed to love and protect the most. So, in those shadows of confusion and darkness, Jasmine, I honestly didn't know. I was so lost and I just wanted to love and I wanted to be loved. So, walking in my faith and literally walking away from these people that hurt me, yeah, it took some courage, but there was a lot of support system from my small group, my biblical study back in Miami, Florida. These women of faith, I saw how they were living. They didn't need a man. They would have liked a man, and some of them are still single, but they're fine. They're serving the Lord. I'm sure we all struggle, right? And we all have those moments, but I saw the resilience and I wanted a piece of that because I was always that girl that had a guy. I was that girl. I was like, yeah, on to the next, on to the next. Why should I be alone? What does that alone thing look like? And now I'm just embracing my freedom.
Love it. Your ministry of healing, my shift thrive was born from a divine calling. Can you walk us through the moment that God revealed that vision to you?
Yes, absolutely. So there was one mini vision that happened several years ago, and God reveals things later on. And this one mini one is when I had first attempted to go into seminary over 10 years ago. But then God turned it around, and that's when I received my master's in mental health counseling from a Christian university instead. So when I started those theological classes, there was this one time that I was sitting in my living room and I was about to prepare for an assignment. I had to read a book. And I'm like, okay, Lord, I'm going to start praying by myself. Why does this always happen when you're by yourself? Because you want people around you to hear stuff, but it's all good. So I closed my eyes and I started praying. And then towards the end of the prayer, Jasmine, I heard like an angelic voice saying Acts 8:34.
Hmm.
Like, what was that about? I had no idea what Acts 8:34 was. So Acts 8:34 was the eunuch from Ethiopia that had
Mm-hmm.
gone to Jerusalem, and on his way back to Ethiopia, he was reading a passage in the book of Isaiah. And Philip the evangelist was sent by an angel to go clarify because he didn't understand what he was reading in the text. So that's to sum that up. Fast forward, I had brain surgery over 2.5 years ago. Yeah. Thank God it was a benign tumor and it was at a superficial level. So it was taken out. That right there was like the tipping point of the divine encounter. So the first divine encounter, that was a mini one. The second one after that, so 2 months. And the reason why I say I'm telling you about both encounters is because a lot of people assume that after brain surgery you start seeing things and having visions. But I actually had my first one way before my brain surgery, my brain. So it's very important for people that are very rational
Mm-hmm.
and not getting it to at
Mm-hmm.
least open the space of, yeah, that makes sense. Or,
Right.
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 So fast forward after the brain surgery, 2 months later, I'm recovering and I'm napping in my living room, another living room situation, on the sofa. Interesting how these patterns work out. January 2nd, wow. My eyes were closed, but I knew it wasn't a dream. I knew it was something bigger than that. And that's the reason why you see this mural here. It's actually a wallpaper in my creative space. And there were a bunch of colors just splashing Jasmine in front of me, just a bunch of colors. And at the same time, I hear this song, a chorus from a Christian group by the name of Cain. And the song title is called The Commission, Go Tell the World About Me. So go tell the world about me. So the chorus comes on, and I'm like, and it's so loud. It's like super loud, like front row concert loud, but I'm not covering my ears. And I'm like, what the heck? And then at the same time, while I hear the song, the colors start splashing again, different colors, just. And then I hear my voice saying, it's okay. You can go now, my friend. It's okay. The chorus comes back on one more time, and then I wake up. On that same day, my daughter's staying with us from Philadelphia. She went off to college and graduated, and she receives a phone call from my ex-husband saying your aunt just passed away. This was around 7, 8 o'clock at night. I had the vision around 3, 4ish. Could it be? I didn't want to say anything to anybody, Jasmine. When stuff like that happens, it takes time for God to give us the confidence or the boldness to little by little start sharing. He doesn't do everything all at once. And then a week later, I asked my ex-mother-in-law, I said, can you walk me through that day so I could try to figure out this vision? And she said around like early afternoon, I was praying to God for her to be taken over to him to just end her life because she was struggling through stage 4 cancer and she had been battling it for a couple of years. She was finally at home being cared for by a nurse and by her mom, and she was suffering. It was so hard for her to breathe. So she had actually reached out to me several times during that journey for spiritual guidance, for prayer, just to talk about God in general. And I truly believe that God used me in that moment to release the burden that she may have been experiencing, that it was hard for her to let go. And I'm like, wow, Lord, this is confirmation for real. Because you read about the Bible, you go to church, you're in small groups, or you're not, or you're a new believer, or you're on the fence, wherever path, God has taken. And you're like, this is real, real. When God touches you like that, it's like, you know what? Forget about all you crazy kids. This is something that you just cannot hold back from. Yeah. And when you have testimony that's that big, you're here to be that guiding light for people, that hope for people, and I express this now more than before I'm in a relaxed state of mind. I'm not fearful of what people think of me anymore. Yeah. I have no reservations to be an open book for those that are willing to hear and receive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like to your last point about being an open book, that's the space that I'm in now, right? I'm a person who likes to dance. I have no skill in dancing. So whenever I go somewhere, I'm dancing and it looks horrible. Absolutely horrible. And my kids make fun of me. My husband might make fun of me. You don't have no rhythm. But I don't care. I love dancing. And I don't care who's watching. I don't care who's looking. I will dance to the Father in public, and I will dance just the music, just because I enjoy dancing, right? Moving my body, the ability to move the limbs that he gave me. So I love that. I don't care what people are thinking. And I love that you're in a space that you do not care what people are thinking. And then you're giving people really an invitation, like the Father would give us an invitation to walk with him. Yeah. You're giving them an invitation into walking with you. And it's their choice, right? You get to choose. Either you like this cup of tea or
it's okay. And I do want to speak on the fact that when I say I don't care, I care about you. Like
absolutely.
I'll care about people to a certain extent because my relationship and my identity comes from the Lord.
Absolutely.
But I know, but this is the hiccup, right? I know that the Lord loves people.
Absolutely.
So as a survivor, I'm still working through boundaries. I'm still working through, did I give not enough or did I give too much? And God is still working. So as a leader, you want to be vulnerable and say, I'm still working through it. I haven't arrived. No, God
Right.
arrived.
Right.
God already did.
Yes.
God already showed up. All we got to do is follow. But at the same time, I need to hold on to his hand and I need to see what he's doing through his word and through other people that came before that I find like a spiritual, mature people that I'm not, and I need help. So as leaders, we still need help and still need to be guided, but grounded, right?
Right.
Like the roots, like what you were saying, your podcast, the name of it is Rooted.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
can only be rooted in community, right?
Absolutely.
We can't do this
Absolutely.
alone. And
You
that's the thing.
cannot do this in a silo.
No, yeah, you can. This space right here, and I'm literally, Jasmine, I'm in the middle of seminary. And I told, my friend that connected me with you, I said, I don't feel like I have the bandwidth right now to go out there as much as I would like to, because right now I'm in a season where I am learning the word. And I need to be in those spaces where God is giving me a place of rest right now. And that's okay. But sometimes I'm not okay with that because I'm a go-getter. I'm energetic. I want to go and do what I got to do and all these projects. And trust me, it won't take me too long to figure it out because he gives us those skills and abilities, right? He's like, pump it. It's me and you time right now. You'll still be able to do your thing little by little. And so I wanted to share that with you as far as like the care. I know I kind of ventured out, but caring for people, but allowing him to open the door to care, and then he'll close it and he'll work with them, right?
Yeah.
In his time, not mine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's important to delineate the caring, right? Like whether you're talking about, I don't mean this way or that way. And I think it's really important that people know like the commandments that we're called to. We're to love the Lord God with all our hearts, our soul, and our mind. And the second is like it to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And so you can't love your neighbor well if you don't love yourself well. You have to do what you're doing and be in the season of Sabbath rest and learning and spending time with the Father so you can love your neighbor well and describe to them the boundaries or what to share and what not to share, because that's really what I hear you calling out when you say, did I share too much or too little? It's about the boundaries. And I was talking to a few different ladies so far, and one of the things we talked about was balance. Do you teach balance? They had an opinion, so I'm curious to hear yours. What do you teach, or do you teach women who are maybe starting new things to have balance, or do you teach them something different?
Yeah. So what I do is I tell them to listen to their body. There's always something going on in the body. The reason why I say this, because right now I'm in a season where I'm learning about the anatomy of the body and the brain, and how the brain and the body are interconnected in constant communication. So when you're in that space of silence and you're winding down and your body's been telling you something, like something doesn't feel right or something didn't sit well. Like for me, it's my heel, my ankle. When I was going through my divorce, I went to take dance lessons, Jasmine. But and I got the unlimited membership with salsa and merengue and bachata.
Bachata. Yes.
A little bit of
Yes. I
we
still
gotta
have no rhythm.
we gotta go to a Christian party one day.
Yes.
Party it out for real till like 3. That's why that was me till 3 o'clock in the morning drinking water straight up at the clubs. But because I love to dance as much as you do.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening with this situation was I did it too much. There was no balance. So I went all in because I was so excited. So you know what happens when our emotions start tripping up and we're not thinking like, wait, let me pace myself. So now 7 months later, I was ignoring the pain in my heel. I went to the ortho and he's like, well, you have a little spur, but you've scarred your tissue because you went a little overboard. Because I told him what I was doing. I was going to classes like 3-4 times for like 2 hours. I would stay there back to back from one class to another, same night. And it's like, shoot, that's what did it. I overworked, right? And now I'm feeling the pain, and the recovery process is longer. Now I have to take time to really get those muscles stretched out. I got to massage it. I got to do some certain exercises I wasn't doing ever in my life. And that's why I want to go back to listening to your body. But I was in a space where I wanted to heal, and I figured dancing, of course, and it does help you heal, but think before you react. Think, okay, could this be too much? All right, let me just slow down. Is this even possible? I haven't danced in forever. This is not something I do on a regular. Could this cause something? So ask yourself questions. Is this attainable? Right? And that's the lesson that I learned after the pain. It always happens after the pain. That's what I'm saying. If you could be wise with a little bit of wisdom that I'm providing, if those listeners, your audience could have like, oh, wait a minute, you know what? I'm gonna slow down and ask myself before I get into this, or I can get into this, but I'll do it little by little and not fully commit all the way. Let's see how that goes and see how my body responds. That's my takeaway for that.
I am a person that, like, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm all in. I've tried the thing like 75 hard, right? Where you're to work out today, 10 pages, 10 pages in the book a day. You got to drink a gallon of water a day. You got to follow a diet, right? And then I made it all the way. I never made the whole 75 days. We'll be honest here. I made it to like day number 42, and then I was at a retreat, and I couldn't get that second workout in. So if I'm either all in or I'm not in, then this is what happens. So I tried to like rework myself back into starting over, because once you do 75 hard, if you fail, you have to start from the beginning.
Oh, wow.
Right? All the way from the beginning. And so I have not yet been able to build myself back up into going all in. But I do 75 soft or the soft version, which is no real version according to the real maker of 75 hard. So that's just a little joke I thought I would share, that, listen, don't overdo it. And it is important to listen to your body. I have all kinds of things I could talk about when it comes to the body that
Yes.
make me pause before I do things. And if my body is telling me, for instance, I have a condition called Meniere's where I get dizzy, and sometimes I want to go do things and I can't. So my dancing might have to be in the chair.
Hey, at
I
least you're
have to
moving.
listen,
You're
right?
moving. It's okay. I know.
I have to listen. So
All things good are
yeah,
gonna come to fruition
yeah,
in heaven.
yep,
And on top
absolutely.
of that, us being in heaven, it's gonna happen for eternity. Can you imagine?
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
not gonna stop.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
fullness of all things good and perfect with the Lord is gonna be eternal.
absolutely.
So he's just preparing us. He's giving us samples here on earth of all the good things that he's given us. He's like, you think I'm going to show you everything? No, 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 no. I'm a God of surprise. So don't worry about it. He's just giving you the little nuggets right now. He's giving you
That's it.
He's
I'll be able to get my dance on later on.
call me later, girl.
Yeah.
Let's do a Zoom dance.
Yes. You have been an advocate for the underserved, long before your ministry started. What drives your passion for justice and protection?
Oh my goodness. It goes back, it stems back when I was a young girl. I think also being an only child and seeing those kids that were bullied, or kids that had come from another country or another state, and just trying to figure out how they were going to integrate themselves in a new school. And I was always that girl that would gravitate towards those kids that were alone, that felt alone. I was that friend. I just had a heart. I had a heart for the hurting. at a very young age. And I'd have my own little imaginary friends and just being a creative. You go to those spaces where you want to create a place of love and acceptance. So I was able to be taken to those places and be like, oh, I do that servant heart. It started at a very young.
Love it. Empowerment and advocacy are some great spaces, I would say, to be called into.
Mhm.
How do you navigate both being a soft place for some and then a strong voice in the public sphere?
It always, for me, it depends on who your audience is, what the organization needs from you in that moment. So you can't do it all simultaneously. And it goes back to the first vision that I had, where God was like, meet the people where they're at. So the eunuch was confused about the text in the book of Isaiah. He's like, well, who was the prophet talking about? Was he talking about himself or somebody else? And that's when Philip the evangelist was like, okay, now it's my turn to talk about Jesus. Now, this is a prophetic verse, right? And so being that soft place to land on for those that are hurting, for those that are so broken and weak, that right now is not the moment to be confessing and doing all those things and realizing your sin and all your brokenness and who you've hurt. No, you go to the people who are oppressed. You go to the people who need to hear hope and need to see some healing. So you provide a level of rescue in the level that they're at, that they need rescuing, right? And then the empowerment part is an organized space where, okay, this is an event where we're going to pump everybody up, and this is what empowerment is going to look like. So that's when you're crafting a speech, or you're crafting a workshop or a training where we're pouring into what does educating, because we're educating them to be empowered by what does their identity in Christ look like? What level are they at? Because there's spiritual maturity, there's phases, and everybody's at a different level. And if you have a large crowd, how do you tackle, right? So there's specific things that they can do, certain activities, breaking up into small groups where you have a one-on-one within a big group. So there's strategically you can do both, but it just all depends on the need in the moment.
We're wrapping down to our last couple of questions. I'm curious what it means to you to be rooted and resilient.
Yeah. Rooted and resilient for me is being in a place of humility, right? Humility where the Father is guiding me, where the Father is building me. And I say that because there's a lot of distractions that are coming in and out of our spaces. And God gets to decide if you ought to pay attention to other voices or ought to pay attention to what's in front of you in that moment. And if there's no way of you getting out because you're somewhere where you're with a group of people and it's rude just to walk out, then where do you go in your mind to disconnect so you don't continue hearing the voices you're not supposed to? That's why I'm rooted, because my confidence has already come after my courage. Courage is like, you're taking a chance. And I'm like, okay, Lord, I need to hear your voice all the time, because he made us so different, Jasmine. Your story is different. My story is different. But yet we're telling the story of the one who has our story already. Like, okay, now it's time to let everybody know your testimony, right? And I'm led by him. I always felt as an only child for a long time until I met up and I had a family reunion with my siblings later on in life. That I noticed a lot of people were just lost, just like me. And I couldn't give them that much weight. I couldn't.
Yeah.
But yet, being with a partner, I wanted to give them everything, because there's something special about being with someone that you want to love and you want to care for, and you want them to do the same thing back. And that's a different space. And now, in this freedom that I'm walking with the Lord, I'm like, I don't have to buy into that. I don't have to do that. I actually have a choice, and it's okay to say no. And it's okay to say yes for a little while, but always communicate to people, this is what it's going to look like. I might not be able to fully commit, and that's okay. but I'm here for you when I can be here for you. But I have to listen to his voice for confirmation.
What would you encourage someone listening who feels like they never can trust or thrive again?
Okay, well, that question is very interesting because you're using an absolute word called never. We're already starting on the wrong foot. You're saying never when you're already alive.
Right.
Thank God. If that's not a bold message with flashing lights saying, hey, I'm alive, then I got to do something with the fact that I'm alive. It's not just about I'm alive and now what? No, I'm alive and now what? Let's go. Let's do this. You know,
Yeah.
Even if it's starting small, Jasmine, it's okay. I mean, like I said, this was I'm almost going on my 11th year. And now I'm starting a ministry. I'm about to hit 50 this year. And now I'm starting a ministry.
Let's go.
Too much bachata. We always got to go back to the rhythms. Listen, thank the Lord we're going to be singing and dancing in heaven because I wouldn't know what to do.
Amen.
I'm going to be like, Lord, you remember that gospel song? You remember that Christian contemporary song? Can you have the angels play that one today? Yeah. So that's really what it's about. That's really what it's about.
All right. How can people get connected to you?
Well, on all social handles, just at MindShift Thrive. That's Instagram and Facebook. MindShiftThrive.org is the website. And I'm happy to announce that we have 2 books available. I did collab because it's very important to know and to stay in your lane, Jasmine. If you're not a writer and you want to go get somebody who writes, I hired a ghostwriter because my testimony just couldn't keep it to myself anymore. So I've got a book out, How If God Could Heal You, Would You Let Him?
Right.
Co-authored with Jeff Miller. So we got together and we did a lot of brainstorming and worked through the book and my testimony, some life lessons, lots of verses, narratives from the Bible to piece it together. And so we're doing that on Amazon. If God Could Heal You, Would You Let Him? And I've got a small little goodie, 13 biblical verses curated by me as a survivor, post-partner abuse, just to help the women. And it's called the Rescue Collection. And it's called Comforting Truths. So that's the title from the Rescue Collection series. This is my first booklet out of the 3. And last but not least, girl, we got music.
Okay.
So I may not be a book writer because I needed help on that, but I am a songwriter. Well, I'm into poetry and now I'm realizing that I actually enjoy writing songs. So we're discovering new things. And
love this. If
you have any streaming sites, Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora, just type in MindShift Thrive Music. Yeah, MindShift Thrive Music. I have an album out already with 13 tracks. It's a contemporary, all types of genre music based on post-abuse and how the Lord led us out of it, celebrating all kinds of women and all types of music in that first album. And we are working on our second one as we speak. And we have a music video out too, and that you can catch on the YouTube channel because I also have a podcast.
Awesome.
MindShift. Yeah, girl. Well, I've been dabbling with everything because I'm like, Lord, I know you already told me to go tell the world. You just didn't give me like specific instructions, which I would have appreciated. But then again,
don't we all?
He's the God of surprises. So he's like, well, I gave you a brain and a body, so you're going to figure it out with me. So anyway, on the website, you're going to see everything. The books, the music, the podcast, the community connections, all that good stuff.
Right. So I want to give you the last word. Thank you for joining this podcast today. As we look ahead, what's your hope and prayer for or hope for the woman who would love to connect with your ministry?
My hope for them is to embrace who they are. And if they don't know who they are, God will reveal it to them as long as they continue walking side by side with him. He is a God of discovery. He is a God of love, and he just wants to do life with us until we meet him in heaven. Because the one thing I will tell you is the vision that I have for them as a survivor, when you get so lost and caught up with life and trauma and hurt and pain and all that stuff, when you're finally in heaven, and you're like, yes, Lord, I loved doing life with you. I love knowing about you, loving you, being able to do life like this background that you see right before I see you. I've missed you because I wasn't able to really see you like the way I'm seeing you now. So it's the vision I have is for them to cling on to the Lord as hard as they can. Oh, finally I get to see you. Finally I get to be with you forever. So it's building that identity with him and being in that intimate space with him now, so much so that when you see him, you're like, finally, yes, I love you, Lord. Thank you for taking me out of this and bringing me into freedom and allowing me to help other women that need to hear about you. It's not about us, it's about him.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
All day. Well, thank you so much for joining Rooted and Resilient Voices. And we hope to catch you again next time.
Thank you, Jasmine. All the best to you.
All the best to you.
Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Jesus loves you.
Yes, he does. Thank you for listening to Rooted and Resilient Voices. If this podcast episode blessed you, like, share, and leave a review. Until next time, stay rooted in faith and resilient in purpose.
Unbreakable.